The auditorium was filled with restless whispers, the kind that always lingered before a big performance. Bright lights swept across the stage as the announcer's voice echoed through the air. Next up, a young boy with a very special story. Please welcome, Daniel. Out walked a thin, shy 13-year-old boy, clutching an old guitar almost bigger than himself. His clothes were plain, his shoes slightly worn, but his eyes, deep, brown, and full of quiet strength, caught everyone's attention. The judges exchanged uncertain glances. Daniel didn't look like the kind of performer who could shock an entire nation. But something about the way he stood there, calm, humble, yet quietly determined, demanded silence. A soft chord filled the room. Daniel's fingers trembled at first, then steadied as he began to sing, Hotel California. His voice was unlike anything the audience had expected, haunting, pure, and aching with a depth far beyond his years. Within moments, the auditorium was still. People leaned forward, their eyes fixed on the boy. The song that everyone thought they knew suddenly felt new, stripped bare of glamour and filled with raw honesty. As his voice rose, a quiet tear slipped down the cheek of one judge. Another judge gripped the desk tightly, as if trying to steady herself. This wasn't just a performance, it was a story. His story. As Daniel strummed the final note of the opening verse, the camera zoomed in on his face. His eyes weren't just singing, they were remembering. What no one in the audience knew was that this boy hadn't come from a world of lights and fame. He had come from nights of loneliness, from days when life felt heavier than his small shoulders could carry. Daniel's mother had worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. His father had left years ago, leaving behind nothing but silence and unanswered questions. For Daniel, music wasn't just a hobby, it was survival. Each chord he learned on that battered guitar was a way of speaking when the world refused to listen. The judges leaned closer, unaware of the storm behind his gentle voice. He sang, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," and suddenly, the song carried new meaning. It wasn't about a hotel anymore, it was about life's traps, the pain of being stuck, the longing to escape heartbreak and poverty. One of the judges, a former musician, whispered under her breath, "He's not just singing, he's bleeding through the song." The audience felt it too. Every word carved its way into their hearts. A man in the crowd who had once been homeless wiped away tears, remembering nights when music was the only comfort he had. A woman who had lost her child clutched her chest as Daniel's voice broke through the silence in her soul. And then came the twist. Halfway through the performance, Daniel faltered. His hands shook, his voice cracked. The pressure of the lights, the weight of his past, it all seemed to crash down on him at once. The auditorium gasped. For a second, it looked like the boy might walk away, like his chance was over before it had even begun. But then, something extraordinary happened. From the front row, his mother, tired, dressed in her simple work uniform, stood up. She placed her hand over her heart and mouthed silently, "I'm here." Daniel closed his eyes, a deep breath, and then, as if lifted by something greater than himself, he began again. Stronger, louder. His voice cracked open like a river breaking through a dam, filling the entire auditorium with raw, unfiltered humanity. By now, the judges weren't just watching a contestant, they were watching a miracle unfold. A boy who had every reason to give up was standing tall, carrying not just his pain but the pain of everyone who had ever been broken, and turning it into music. Tears streamed down faces across the room. The crowd wasn't just listening anymore, they were healing with him. The final notes of the song soared across the auditorium like a prayer rising toward the heavens. Daniel's voice, once shaky and uncertain, now carried a weight that no one could ignore. Every lyric seemed to hold a piece of his soul. The judges were no longer in control of their emotions. One covered her face with trembling hands, tears streaming down freely. Another leaned back, eyes glistening, whispering, "This is the most beautiful version I've ever heard in my life." But it wasn't just the judges. The audience had become part of something larger than a performance, it felt like a collective awakening. Strangers reached for each other's hands. Grown men cried openly, mothers hugged their children tighter, and somewhere in the back, a man whispered, "This boy just gave us back our humanity." As the final chord rang out, Daniel lowered his guitar. For a moment, there was silence, an almost sacred stillness, as if no one wanted to break the spell he had cast. Then, like a wave crashing, the room erupted in thunderous applause. People stood on their feet, clapping, cheering, crying. The host rushed on stage, holding back his own tears, and gently asked, "Daniel, that was unlike anything we've ever heard. Where did that come from?" Daniel hesitated, his small voice barely rising above the roar. "My mom," he said softly. "She gave up everything so I could dream. This song, it's for her. For all the people who feel trapped, who think they're alone. I just want them to know, they're not." The camera cut to his mother in the crowd. Tears ran down her tired face as the entire audience turned to applaud her. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. She wasn't just a woman cleaning offices at night or working double shifts. She was a hero in the eyes of thousands, because her sacrifice had built this moment. One of the judges, still crying uncontrollably, stood up and spoke, "Daniel, tonight you didn't just sing a song. You reminded us why music exists. It's not about fame or money. It's about healing, about hope, about giving a voice to those who feel voiceless. You are a gift to this world." The crowd roared again. Daniel looked down, overwhelmed, clutching his guitar like it was the only thing holding him up. But in that moment, he wasn't the scared boy with worn-out shoes anymore. He was a symbol, a reminder that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. When he finally walked off the stage, hand in hand with his mother, the world behind him felt forever changed. Social media would explode with his performance. Millions would watch it on repeat. Headlines would read, "Judges cry uncontrollably at boy's version of Hotel California." But beyond the headlines, beyond the viral fame, what mattered most was what people felt inside. For days, weeks, even months afterward, strangers would tell each other, "I was there. I heard that boy sing. And it changed me." Because in the end, Daniel's performance wasn't just about music. It was about humanity, the reminder that no matter how broken we feel, no matter how heavy our burdens, there is always hope, and sometimes, that hope comes in the form of a trembling boy with an old guitar, singing his heart out for the world to hear. The story closes with a truth that touches every heart. Kindness, sacrifice, and courage can transform pain into beauty, and when we share that beauty, it heals not just ourselves, but the world around us.